So it stops oscillating. Now, I'll set it right there so it's blowing at you.
Okay, thank you.
What we was talking about that missed you guys last Monday on Labor Day weekend. So it's like home being back here this morning. And in the meantime, I know the part of the routine that you go through where you read Proverbs every day, a chapter of Proverbs based on the day. There's also other Bible studies that are going on. Paige Leanne, you've got the Bible study on Psalms that you're doing. And I want you to tell me what you're doing and then read what you have. Shelley, give Leanne them. I'll give you mine.
Oh, hey! He's got it in his back pocket. So, last night I was sitting down and, I have a lot of anxiety and fear that comes up at times. And so I just started writing. Actually, I quit writing about a year ago because I had my words used against me one day. So I just really quit writing. But I realized that the spirit of fear is just a spirit. And what we've been learning this week is that we can cast all that to God and he takes control. Now I can't give it to him and say, here you go, God, but now let me take it back. So this is a process that I'm working on myself. So I went out of the box and I said, you know what, Lord, I'm going to write. And when I wrote, these were what came from my heart posture. And so this is taking care of the spirit of fear because the anxiety was writing. Now here's a spirit of fear where I'm conquering it with God because I'm fixing to read this out loud to everybody for the first time in a long time. So it doesn't have a title yet, but okay. Hold on. When my hopes fade and my dreams die and I find no answer by asking why, I will just keep on trusting and hanging on to my faith because God is just and he never makes mistakes. Should the storms come, which they will, I will rest in God's peace. And when life seems unfair and more than I can take, I will look up to my Father and remember he does not make mistakes. God sees our struggles and has been on every single road we have. So remember, take your hands off the wheel and trust in God, for he will never fail. Thank you.
Very good. Amen on that. And what I'm thinking about, you made the comment, and I share your struggle with turning something over to God and then picking it back up and taking it back. I know how common that is for people because I know how common it is for me to have that peace to say, God, it is yours. Just take it. I leave it with you. It is gone. It is done. And sometimes it's a process to work through. So continue that process, work through it. It will come, it will be good because God is already there waiting to take it from you. Once you are ready to release it to him, God is ready. Also, Eddie, I had something for you I was going to share with you. You weren't here. I didn't see you yesterday to give you baptism pictures. So those are all yours from the baptism the other day. We're going to get started here. My thoughts this morning, and where I've been this last week or so, is liking someone versus loving someone. We're going to talk about the difference between what it is like to love someone versus to like someone. So let me cover this a little bit. Karen, could you give me just a little bit of more of the overhead light? Not the front lights, but the ones right on top of me. No, not those, but the ones above me. Okay, we're good. I'm going to start out with liking someone. And liking is a verb. And so I'm going to go through some definitions, and we're going to talk about this and why I believe it is important. Okay? The definition of like, to enjoy or approve of something or someone. I like to eat ice cream. I I believe everybody does. Maybe there's some that don't. Number 2, to feel an attraction toward or take pleasure in enjoying something like enjoying playing cornhole, enjoying playing baseball. I like to do that, okay? The second half of that is to feel towards something regarding how you would like a change. I would like to become closer to God. I would like to do better in my prayer life. I would like to hear God's word. I would like to hear God from God into my life, okay? Number 3, to wish to have something. I would like a drink of water. That's another like. Number 4, to do well in. A plant, this plant likes to have lots of water. This plant likes that because that is an environment that they thrive in. Number 5, to appreciate and value, which is to be proud of someone. I like how you are, who you are, what you are. And so in going to the like versus love, I'm going to reference a movie I watched many, many, many years ago. In fact, it was a VHS tape, so it tells you how long ago I originally watched it and saw it. And even then, it was an old 1950s movie, a Jimmy Stewart movie called Shenandoah. I don't know, have any of you ever seen that, heard of it? There's a scene in Shenandoah, and this is during the Civil War episode, time period. He's a Virginia farmer, a large Virginia farmer, has all his children living there with him, helping him with the farm. His oldest daughter is, I'm going to guess, 20 years old or so, and she has a suitor, a man that is wanting to marry his daughter. And so they all have supper together, and Jimmy Stewart and this man go out onto the front porch, and they're sitting, and this man asks Jimmy Stewart for his daughter's hand. Can I marry your daughter? And Jimmy Stewart, in his very slow, methodical fashion, says, do you like my daughter? Just very calmly and matter-of-factly, do you like my daughter? And the guy stands up, spreads his hand out, and says, what do you mean? I love your daughter. Jimmy Stewart very calmly responds, I didn't ask if you loved her. I asked if you like her. It got me on a long process of thinking of the value of liking someone, liking the characteristics in someone, liking who they are. Because if you like someone, there's a foundation to build a relationship on. Before Shelley and I got married, I have, and all of you probably, I've been in other relationships. I've been in relationships where I liked that person but didn't love them. I've also been in relationships, strange as this may sound, where I've loved someone but didn't like who they were. Yeah, nod your head big time with that one. And I didn't realize that till after the fact, and how important it was to like somebody, because that is the foundation that you build everything else on. So when Shelley and I do marriage counseling or couples counseling, or somebody wants to get married and we sit down and counsel them, the first thing we ask, or let's use an example, if there's a couple that's having troubles, let's counsel with them. They want to talk about their problems, and we stop them. No. We'll get to that, but that's not where we're starting. We always start by handing them a 4x6 card and asking them to each write down 5 things they like about the other person. Can you find something you like about them? Because if you can find something you like about them, we've got a foundation we can build on, and we can repair this. If you cannot find anything you like about that person, then the hope for this relationship is pretty much non-existent. So we always start out, and they fill it out, and we just turn it over. When you get home tonight, I want you to trade cards and talk about this. And then share with us next week when we get back together what you talked about. This is what you like about someone. And how important it is to find characteristics in somebody that you like. That's where friendship's built. How many have had a friend that they didn't like? Okay. How well did that friendship go? It kind of rocky friendship. So I'm going to ask you now, and I truly want to hear from you. I want to talk to you. I want to ask you to think of somebody in your life, and it can be a family member, it could be somebody you've been in a relationship with, it can be somebody in Hannah's house here. It doesn't matter. We're not talking about intimate relationships. We're just talking about people. I want you to find somebody in your mind. Think about somebody. Family, Hannah's house, Crystal Brook Church leader, it doesn't matter. And I want you to tell me and identify a characteristic in them that you like. Shelley, pass the mic around. I want to hear from everybody. I want you to share with me something that you like about someone.
All right, who's going to be first?
Yeah. Travis, go ahead. Who do you like? And tell us the characteristic in them that you like.
I would have to go with you, Daryl, with how intellectual you are. I like how intellectual you are, and you're down to key with what you say and everything, and I could relate with it easily.
Thank you. That blesses me. Who's next? Let's just pass it down the row.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to do it, Jeff? Go ahead.
And you can pass, Jeff, if you don't want to. But I'd like to hear from you. Okay? Drew?
So Travis, no matter what circumstance he's in, he's still really selfless, regardless what the circumstances are, to help somebody.
I love that one. Selfless. Nathan?
Justin for his brutal honesty.
Ooh, that one's good. Let's stop with that one a little bit because we've talked about that. Brutal honesty. Truth without mercy is mean. Mercy without truth is meaningless. So you need to be honest with each other, but in what manner are you going to be honest with each other? And the circumstance may dictate just whether it needs to be brutally honest, whether it needs to be lovingly honest, or just how it needs to be. But it's all in not what you say, but how you say it. Truth without mercy is meaningless. Be truthful at all times. Very good, Nathan. Ryan.
I think I'm gonna have to go with you too, Daryl. I like your wide range of vocabulary.
Thank you.
I'm going to go with Spencer and his supportiveness.
The word for Spencer? What was that?
Just supportive.
Supportive. Spencer is supportive. Very good.
I think I'd go with Pastor Dick and just how vulnerable and like real he gets with us, because like he's not afraid to show his weaknesses and where he's at in his life, and I really like that.
Outstanding. Very good. Leanne.
I'm gonna have to go for Jessica. Jessica's a hard cookie, but she's a soft cookie, and she is really, truly a shepherd. She watches over her flock and she takes care of us, like spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So Jessica's mine.
I like that one about Jessica, especially because comparing her to a shepherd. A shepherd may do some things that you think you don't like, but the core value in Jessica is she's doing it because it's to protect her sheep and to protect you and to benefit you and to bless you and to help you to succeed. It is all about you, not her. Very good. Go ahead.
She's not here, but I'm to say Sam for being our silent pit bull. She keeps us in line, and you don't even know she's in the room, but she keeps you in line.
Just her presence there.
She ain't afraid to speak up. She ain't afraid to speak up, but she's a very silent, wonderful person. She's she'll put you in check when she sees you doing wrong.
Yeah.
And we thank her for that.
In Sam, you can see her heart. She has such a soft heart.
Yeah, she does.
She does.
She really
Okay. Nan? Or Justin? Diane, did you want to share anything? Okay.
I'd have to say the whole group of the girls and the guys too, but they're just very caring, and it's the best group I've seen, since we've been here.
Very good. Justin?
I have to second that emotion on that one. When was that, girls? It was Saturday night. Coming back from coming back from Access.
Okay.
I had my big speaker. Where it's at over there. I talked to the head person, which was Jennifer at the time. I asked her if I could take a couple of the girls down the street, praising Jesus, praising the Lord. And we went from Access all the way to the girls' house, blaring music, dancing, singing. And I'm very blessed and honored to have all you girls and guys both. So sometime we're going to get all the guys and girls together and have one big party out in the parking lot.
Okay. I saw the Facebook feed. Yeah, go ahead and get the mic. I saw the Facebook feed Saturday night. I loved it. It was really cool.
I'm going to say my mom because she's so forgiving.
Forgiving. All right. Angie.
No, you go. Do what you want. I don't have one yet.
We'll come back if you want to. Becky, go ahead.
You want to say something?
Take the mic.
Sarah?
I want to say Paige, Leanne, and really Addie both. They're like both spiritually aware, and I freaking love it.
Spiritually aware. April?
I want to say all the girls, because
What do you see in them?
I see them. I've only been here 2 weeks, and I've seen them each individual grow, and we all are considerate of each other.
Consider it.
Y'all next.
Okay. We're good.
I just want to say it's all of you that you have taught me. I'm a very black and white person. Right is right, wrong is wrong. I'm still that way, but you've taught me how to love unconditionally. Like, I'm your biggest cheerleader. I believe in you guys. I do. I love you, and I'll always be there for you. But I'm very black and white. I want you to do right. I want you to do good. I want you to be better than I ever was. Thank you.
And for me, it is Shelley. Shelley, you are so kind. That is the outstanding characteristic that you have. You are kind. Okay, so this is the characteristics. This gives you an idea, an insight, what the character of Jimmy Stewart was looking at this young man that was wanting to marry his daughter. He wanted to make sure that he liked who she was so he would care about her the rest of his life. That he could have a relationship that he could build a foundation upon. Because without liking somebody, and that's why we start the counseling with a card, list 5 things you like about them, characteristics that you like about them. Because if you can like something in someone, you can develop that relationship. And the relationship may be just a friendship between the guys at the guy's house. That's cool. The relationship between you and a parent, you and your mother, you and your father, you and just someone in leadership or whoever it may be. But if you like them, you will listen to them. If you like them, you will respect them. If you like them, you will care for them. If you like them, you want to develop with them. Look at the people around you. Find characteristics in them that you like. Okay, so that's the like part. The loving is different. Love is generally used, the like is a verb. It is a verb there. Loving is generally used as a noun, except when we come to Scripture and come to Jesus. Jesus demonstrated how love is a verb. And so I'm going to go into both of those. And I want to share a little bit, and I want to finish up with what Jesus did to show his love. Love is generally interpreted as a feeling and emotion, okay? Jesus did that, but he also then demonstrated his love by his actions. So the definition of love as a noun, a strong feeling of affection and concern toward another person that is arising from kinship or close friendship. Number 2, a strong feeling of affection and concern for another person accompanied by some kind of attraction to them. Number 3, a feeling of devotion or adoration, in particular toward God. Number 4, a deep emotional feeling of being home, serenity, peace. I love them because when I'm with them, I'm home. I'm at peace. This is a good place to be. These are all definitions of the emotional feeling of what it's like to feel love. Okay? Feeling love. The other definition, and this is defining love as a verb, an action that expresses a deep affection or caring. See how it still goes back to the affection and the caring, but this is showing it. An action of honor or respect. This is an action. Jesus did that throughout his ministry, throughout the Gospels. Jesus was doing exactly what we're talking about here. He had the emotional connection with people, but he then took it to the next step by showing how he loved them. And I want to use the example. I didn't pull it up to read. I should have. I'll just do it off the top of my head. When Jesus fed the 5,000, everybody knows that story. Jesus fed the 5,000. Okay, but I always like, and if you know me, Ryan, Travis, you'll know I like the backstory because the backstory helps the current story make sense. Okay, the backstory of this is that John the Baptist had just been beheaded. John the Baptist was Jesus' cousin, okay? John the Baptist also is the man of God that baptized Jesus, that introduced his ministry. There was a kinship between them. There was a friendship between them. There was a closeness between them. There was an honor and respect between them. Jesus, just days earlier, before feeding the 5,000, had found out that his cousin John the Baptist had been beheaded. Had not just died, didn't just die a natural death, but was literally executed and beheaded. That had to be emotionally devastating. So, what Jesus and the disciples had decided to do is, we're going to take a boat, we're going to go out into a sparsely populated area. We're going to go away from people so that we can just sit back, we can reconnect, we can meditate, we can reflect, we can recover. We can emotionally recover. Okay, that was Jesus' intent. But word got out that Jesus is going down here. And so the people followed him. They gathered around him. And there ended up being 5,000. And the counting in Scripture time was 5,000 men, head of households. The counting was by head of household. So there would have been 5,000 men. If he was a head of household, very likely may have been a wife for each man, a half a dozen children for each family, each household. We're talking minimum 10,000 people there. Jesus wanted some alone time. I want to be alone. I want to just pray. I want to spend time with you, God. I want to reconnect. Out of Jesus' love for the 5,000 that followed him, he put his own emotions and his feelings aside and taught to them for 3 days. Instead of taking care of himself, he took care of the sheep. Instead of taking care of his own feelings and emotions, he took care of everybody else's needs. That is the love of Jesus in action. Putting his own needs aside, putting his own feelings, himself aside for the benefit and the goodness of everyone else, for the sheep that he has taken care of. That is the ultimate love. That is the love of action. By taking care of what you need to do, in spite of what you want to do. Jesus wanted to be alone, but he needed to teach the 5,000. So he set himself aside out of his love for everyone else and spent the next 3 days teaching to them, ministering to them. And I'm sure there was healings and and lots of other things going on. But that's that love, that's that action, that's that verb that goes along with that. And the rest of this, being love as an action, no one showed the depths of true love like Jesus did. He set an example for believers to show love to each other, and that's what Jesus was about, showing the love, not just declaring it, not just proclaiming it, but actually showing it, actually doing it, actually sitting down with someone, listening to them one-on-one, and mentoring someone, sitting, whether it be Pastor Jim, sitting in front of a chapel on Friday mornings and teaching you. That is his love in action for you. Okay? Have you ever spent time reflecting on the love of Christ? And that's what we're looking at right now. It's fascinating to ponder on how there is nothing in this world, nor of this world, that can ever separate us from the love of Jesus. Okay? It's because he's shown us his love, that we know his love, that we can then step into his love. Jesus healed the sick. And this is going to be out of Matthew 14:14. When Jesus landed, he saw a large crowd. He had compassion on them and healed their sick. This is the action. The compassion was part of that love. That compassion was emotion because of my emotional connection to you, because of what I care for everyone. He spent the time healing them. He spent time with them. During Jesus' early ministry, there were no hospitals, no clinics, no doctor's office. The threat of incurable illness due to infections, fever, food poisoning was immense. Leprosy was a plague that caused people to be outcast. I'd read a historical observation one time years ago, and I'm kind of thinking of back of my mind, the reason most people died, and this would have been before the 19th century, was from infection. There were no antibiotics. If you had a severe cut, if you had an animal bite, if you was out somewhere and you were bit, there were no antibiotics to give to you. Okay? At that point, the knowledge of bacteria and germs was virtually non-existent, so they may wash out a wound with just water from the river that was full of bacteria, and so they filled the wound full of bacteria, where now today if I would see a severe wound, I would get sterile water. Either boil the water, get purified water, something, so that I do not add additional bacteria, additional infection to that wound. That knowledge is within the last couple of 100 years. In fact, a lot of that started with, we'll go to history, the Civil War. But in order to, during the Civil War, stitches were made with horsehair. If you had a large wound, you needed to sew it together. What did you sew it with? They used horsehair. Horsehair, if you've ever, how many have handled horsehair? It's stiff, right? How do you soften horsehair so that it is supple? You boil it. Aha! They ran across this by accident. Boiling the horsehair sterilized it, and so you were using a sterile dressing, a sterile way to close the wound, which means the wound had a much better chance of healing, and therefore the soldier surviving. You run across things like this, okay? The point being that that was not available, known in Jesus' day. Okay, so there was no hospital to go and have a wound sewn closed like that with something that is sterile. Jesus came along. Jesus was the great healer. Through his word and the power of the Holy Spirit, those infections could be cleansed. Those wounds could be healed. Those diseases could be healed. The enemy could be cast out. Jesus was that great healer. And he was healing through the love that he had. He could have spent his time somewhere else doing something else, but he spent his time healing. He spent that time. The other issue, I'm trying to think of another one of Jesus' healing when he healed the woman that touched the hem of his gown. Okay, I love that one. I love that one because he did not go out to intentionally heal her, but his very presence, the godliness, because he was God, was upon him. And when she touched it, but he did not walk on. He stopped, he turned around, and he ministered to that woman. That, again, is another action of love. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to take my time to interact with you. I'm going to take my time to talk with you. I'm going to take my time to find out who you are and what's going on with you and where you're going and what we can do and how I can help direct you to go that direction, right? Right. We're going to do that. Drew, if you've got time, we'll meet at 10:30 after chapel. You got time? I talked to Jessica. I arranged it already in advance. So I'm letting you know now what I've already done. We'll meet after chapel. We'll spend time. We'll talk. We'll mentor. We'll do that. This is what Jesus did. There was almost every time that there is a healing of Jesus, there's a preparation. And I was thinking about how Steve finished service yesterday morning. Shelley, what was the parable that he finished with on the healing? I looked it up, and I've lost my place. I'm thinking it was Matthew 6. No, it wasn't. I've lost my place there. I didn't mark it. I should have marked it. It was what? Okay. If you notice in just about everything that Jesus did, before there was a healing, there was a preparation. There was a preparation. He did ministry so that they was ready to receive the healing. Steve was talking about receiving as a matter of taking something, okay? A football receiver takes the ball out of the air. That was it. Matthew 8. I want to go to that. Matthew 15. Okay. This is the, let me go to there real quickly because I want to use that. Matthew 15, it's where the Gentile woman went to Jesus and asked for a healing of her daughter. That is it. Thank you so much for remembering it. Okay, and let me get down to that. But anyway, in Matthew 15, a Gentile woman, a non-Jewish woman, came up to Jesus and just simply asked him for a healing of his daughter, of her daughter. And he said, basically, why should I feed the crumbs to the dogs when everybody else needs it? He was saying, not that she was a dog, but that he needed to, she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready to receive it. Leanne?
That's what he was talking about the day I got baptized, because he was saying something about how they were at one time with the dog. Oh, that makes sense now. It's like,
Okay. Travis, what's the verse on that? Because I want to read that now. What she said to him at the beginning. What verse does that start on? 22, that sounds right. Okay, yes, I've got it marked right there. And I'm going to read through this, and then we're going to talk about this just a little bit here. Okay. Then Jesus went out from there and departed to the region of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan, which would have been a Gentile woman, came out from the region and cried out to him, saying, "Have mercy upon me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely demon-possessed." So she's just going to the doctor asking for a quick fix. That's what she's asking. But he answered her, not a word, didn't say anything, just let everything soak in. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away, for she cries out after us." But he answered and said, "I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Basically, he's saying, I was sent to the Jewish people. Now then later on, Paul was sent to the rest of the world, and the disciples were sent to the rest of the world. Jesus started his ministry out with the Jewish community. And then the disciples and Paul were sent out to the rest of the world through the Great Commission. But this is before that Great Commission right there that he answered. But he answered and said to them, "I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Then she came and worshipped him, saying, "Lord, help me." But he answered and said, "It is not good to take the children's bread and throw it to the little dogs." And the reference there is the little dogs will not receive the value of it because they're not prepared to receive it. They're not prepared to take it. Okay? It's out there, but the football receiver scenario, it's going to hit them in the numbers and bounce right off, and it's going to be an incomplete pass. That is what Jesus is saying right there. I'm going to throw it, but it will be lost, and so therefore it will be of no value there. And she said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the little dogs eat the crumbs which fall from their master's table." Aha, what she's doing there, she has an aha moment there. She's saying, I am ready to listen to what you have to say. I'm ready to receive what falls off the table. And I'm ready to take it. I am ready. Then Jesus answered and said to her, "O woman, great is your faith, because you've shown me. Let it be to you and your desire." And her daughter was healed from that very hour. So there was a healing there. What Jesus was wanting to do was prepare the woman so that she was ready to take the healing. Preparation. And if you look at most of what Jesus does, there is some form, some type of preparation before any healing takes place, before anything takes place, he prepares the atmosphere, first of all. And secondly, this was a very minor, very small, very short teaching, but he wanted to see and draw out of her. He wanted to hear the words out of her own mouth that, yes, she would have the faith to do that. Did you have something you wanted to add? Give Leanne the mic.
I just wanted to know what that was, where that is, so I can do my study on it.
Okay, right now I am in Matthew chapter 15, starting at verse 22. Matthew 15, 22. Okay, so this is again the action of Jesus. I'm not only going to heal you, my gift, my action of love, I'm also going to take the time so that healing is significant to you. I'm going to take the time to prepare you, to teach you, to talk to you, to let you know how to take that, how to catch that football. Because without that preparation time, very likely any healing would have been lost, even a healing from Jesus. He wanted to prepare this lady because in his heart, in the love that he had, he wanted her to succeed. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like Hannah's House program here? Teaching you chapel after chapel after chapel, all subtly different with different people and different messages, so that you are prepared to succeed and prosper. Okay? Let's talk about relationships for a minute, because we're talking about liking someone and loving someone. It is not possible to, I'm thinking of a TV show, and I don't watch it because I don't like the premise of it, but I've seen it advertised, Married at First Sight. What a horrible idea. I just cringe at that, okay? How could you ever successfully marry someone at first sight? I personally do not believe it's possible, because you don't know them, so you have no way of knowing any characteristics that they have that you would like. It's very possible that every characteristic in their personality just absolutely abhors you and turns you off, okay? They've never even sat down to find out what they like about each other. And then once you find out what you like about each other, take the time to develop that. You've heard probably, and in talking, a minimum of knowing someone for a year before you get married. Minimum, and probably more than that. And this comes from Steve Grimes from many, many years ago. He talked to me about the difference between quality time and quantity time. Okay? Quality time, you go out to dinner and you have a really nice dinner and you put out your good face. You step forward with your right foot. You do everything perfectly in quality time. But the aha moment is in quantity time when somebody's tired, they've been up working for 14 hours and they're grouchy and they're grumpy and you see their true character. If you don't know their true character, how can you know that this is the right person that God has brought into your life? Take time, and that's the quantity time. I've asked Shelley the rhetorical question because I knew the answer. And Shelley, you know the question I'm going to ask right now. So be prepared to pick up the mic and answer it here. She knows the drill, so this isn't a new question. What if I say I'm going to come home to you every other weekend? We're going to have a fabulous weekend going out to the movies, dinners, and it'll be just wonderful. Every other weekend I'll come home and we'll have a quality weekend together. What's your response to that?
No, definitely no.
Okay, not only no, but?
Definitely not.
Definitely no. There's no quantity time. Spending time getting to know each other, spending the goods, the bads, the ups, the downs. A wedding ceremony, and I'm not talking about getting any of you married. That's not the point here. I'm talking about relationships. But eventually, I'm going to guess that all of you will be in a relationship somehow, some way. Okay, one of the, if you look at and break down a wedding ceremony, the traditional old-time vows in a wedding ceremony, and I've written them out. I don't have them in this binder, but I've got them written out. You'll recognize it when I say it. Will you take this person in sickness and in health? Okay, and the health is when they're really doing good, and that's quality time. And the sickness, no, that's the quantity time when you see the good, the bad, and they may be grouchy and they may not be receptive. Okay, you know what I'm talking about? In goodness, in sickness and in health, till death do you part. So you need to know that you can maintain the sickness or maintain the relationship through somebody's sickness. Because this isn't I'm going to love you until you get sick and then I'm going to walk away because I can't deal with it. This is going to be, I'm going to love you through the sickness until the end of life. Through it. And that's what Shelley did for me 6 years ago. She endured 6 months worth of sickness through chemo, radiation, surgery, recovery. I was not pretty to be around. I felt like, I'll use the graceful word crud, okay? There's a more accurate word, but I'll just use crud, okay? I felt really like crud. And so I was not always a pleasant person when I felt like crud. Shelley was kind through that entire episode. More than I could ever repay. And so it's not a matter of repaying. It's a matter of staying strong, staying dedicated in sickness and in health, till death do us part. There's significance if you look through, and we may do that sometime. I don't know. But I've got a whole teaching on the significance of each and every one of the separate traditional wedding vows. That for most people, they're just words, but there is true significance. There's covenant significance behind each one of those vows. That if you look at them and dissect them, they're really quite interesting. What the vows really mean. Because most of us hear the vows, but we don't understand the true significant meaning behind it. Another story for another time. We won't go into that. But I want to go back to Jesus. The preparation that he did to prepare somebody through ministry so that when he threw that pass to them, they were prepared and ready to catch it and take it. And it wouldn't just bounce off the numbers, bounce off of deaf ears, and have no effect on them whatsoever. Jesus wanted everyone that he taught to, everyone he taught, to succeed, to prosper. I want you to do well. That's what Jesus wanted for them. That was his actions. And his actions was to prepare them. His ministry was a whole ministry of preparation. He spent the ministry preparing the disciples, the 12 disciples, to carry on his ministry. This is all preparation for them. It was all preparation for everybody so that they would succeed and do well. That was number one. Number two, he raised the dead in love. Jesus wept more than once. When Jesus went to the tomb of Lazarus, he wept. He literally wept along with Mary and Martha. Lazarus that passed away, Jesus was off in a distance. He was told that Lazarus was sick. Would you please come? He was teaching. He stayed to finish the work he was doing where he was at before he went to Lazarus. 4 days later, by that time, he was already dead. But Jesus knew what was going on. But he knew the emotion, and Martha, Mary, and Lazarus were brothers and sisters, okay? So he sat down with Mary and Martha and wept with them. He took the time to share their emotional grief, okay? Before he went into the tomb, called out, Lazarus, come on out, okay? This is last Friday at Danny's funeral. I was very impressed with all of you at Danny's funeral last Friday. You did good. I am proud of you. I want you to hear that again. I am proud of you. You went to Danny's funeral. You were graceful. You cared. You showed what you felt. You represented Hannah's house in Crystal Brook very, very well. The funeral is all about grieving, about taking the time. It is an action. We're back to loving with action. Going to the funeral was your love for Danny in action, but also more than that, because Danny didn't really receive anything from you, but all of his family did. This was action of grieving for his family that was left behind. Jesus wept and grieved with Mary and Martha that were still left behind at that time before Jesus brought Lazarus back to life. A funeral is about grieving. It's about giving of your time. Sharing. It is an action of sharing so that other people can then receive. Number 3, Jesus fed the hungry in love. Jesus called his disciples to them, and this is Matthew 15:32, just right after we were at the Matthew 15 scripture a minute ago. I have compassion for these people. They have already been with me 3 days. This is the 5,000, and they have nothing to eat. I do not want to send them away hungry, or they may collapse on the way. Jesus had compassion for them. So let's stop. Let's talk about food. Let's just talk about sustenance. I want you to prepare some food for them. And he was talking to the disciples, and it wasn't about cooking food for the 5,000, even though it could have been. The preparation was to find food to start with, find something of value to start with. Jesus is always looking for something of value. Shelley and I are here at chapel looking out at everybody and into each and in every one of you individually, looking for the value within you. Not just looking for someone of value, but looking for each one of you and looking for and identifying the value within each and every one of you. Jesus was always looking for value, okay? So the disciples went out and they found 2 fishes, 5 loaves. I have my numbers transmixed up. Yeah, okay, I'm close. Transmixed isn't a real word. I just kind of threw that in there. It's my dyslexia that you all have grace for me. Okay, so that he said we have now something that we can start with. We have something of value we can start with. And that's why it's so important to find something in somebody else that you like. Find value in them that you can then have something to start with. When you see characteristics in someone else that you like, you have something to start with, to start that relationship, to start that friendship, to start that connection. Jesus was starting this. He was preparing this. He found the fishes and the loaves. And from that, he told the disciples, take that out and pass that out to everyone. And he broke it. And he handed the disciples what would have been basically 4 halves of 2 fishes. It didn't multiply until they took it out to the 5,000 and passed it out. That's when it multiplied, by their actions, the actions of their love. Their actions were multiplied. I'm making a connection here. When they loved the 5,000, they proceeded with action. And their actions are what was multiplied when they passed the food out, the fishes and the loaves to the 5,000. It took their action to multiply it so there was enough for everyone. And there was some left over. There was 12 baskets left over. 12 baskets were representing the 12 tribes of Israel. There is enough left over to provide for and sustain each of the individual tribes of Israel, so that he could take care of his sheep. I know that number. I'm right on that number. But thank you. I wasn't thinking about that Leanne, give Leanne the mic. I want everybody to hear.
I'm sorry, but whenever you said that, it just kind of came up in my head. So was each disciple a different nation, a different tribe of the nations?
No, not necessarily.
Okay.
Even though Bridget, maybe you can help me, the significance of the number 12. I forget it off the top of my head. I put you on a spot, I'm sorry. I need to look that up. There's a significance of the number 12, and I'm thinking completion, but I don't think that's quite right. I'll have to look that up and come back. No, but if you notice, each and every one of the disciples had different characteristics. We're talking about characteristics in each other that you like. Virtually every characteristic that you listed was different. I think there was one or two duplicates, but just about every one of you had a different characteristic in someone that you liked. Okay? That's the 12 disciples. They each had different characteristics. If Shelley and I were identically alike, one of us would be unnecessary. Okay? There's value in differences. Find different things in different people that you like. It's okay. The disciples had different qualities within them. They had different characteristics. Peter was the rock. He was very forceful. He was very charismatic. Okay? But he was also very fallible. Yeah, he denied Christ 3 times at his crucifixion. Okay? But he's also the rock that Jesus built his church on. Thomas, I love Thomas. I think Thomas is one of my favorite. I think he gets a bad reference in being called Doubting Thomas because after the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ, but before the ascension, when Jesus appeared to the disciples in the upper room, Thomas was not there. Jesus leaves, Thomas comes in later, and the disciples said, we all saw Jesus. And Thomas says, well, I won't believe it was really Jesus unless I can put my hand in his side where the wound was, called Doubting Thomas. He was just simply wanting verification. I don't want the enemy to come in and lie to us. I don't want to be misled by the enemy. I want to know that I know that I know this is truthful. Bridget, what you got for us? Hold on a second. Yes, you do.
I don't need the mic. Yes, you do. Fine, I do need the mic. It represents authority and governmental rule. So the 12 sons and the 12 apostles are symbols of authority both in ancient Israel and in the Christian church.
Representative authority. Any significance that we have 12 men on a jury?
That's why they call the police 12.
Call it the what? What
They call the police 12.
Okay, I didn't get that before, but the police 12. Okay, there's significance there. And so there's a purpose for each of the disciples being different, having different characteristics, and having different qualities because they were sent to the ends of the earth. Not every nation that they went to was similar to other nations. Thomas, in fact, and like I said, I liked the disciple Thomas. He went to India to set up the Church of Jesus Christ in India. That's a long ways to go from Jerusalem. And there is still a substantial Orthodox Christian church in India that disciple Thomas started. Wow. Yeah. So they spread out. In fact, I've been wanting for a long time to go into the disciples. We did, and I've been talking about this, and I think I might do this. I don't know quite how. I'll think about it between now and next week how I'll do it. We did a study on the disciples after the ascension, after the book of Acts. What did the disciples do after the book of Acts? You don't know. It's not in the Bible. So you have to go out of the Bible and go into just historical records. I will give you kind of a preview. They became supermen.
Yes.
Literally. The Gospels and the book of Acts portray, and rightly so, the disciples as fallible human beings. And they were. I am very fallible. You are also. You make mistakes, right? Own up to your mistakes. Yes. We'll figure them out and we'll move forward. We'll correct them and move forward. That's exactly what the disciples did. In the book of Acts, they saw who they truly were. They said, we're going to rise above this, we're going to fix this, and we're going to go out and we're going to do this. After the book of Acts, they went each direction. Lazarus, for example, became later on the bishop of Cyprus. He wasn't a disciple. There were disciples that went to the other end of the Mediterranean, to Spain and France. Each one of the disciples went and preached at one time or another in Egypt. Thomas went to India, to the east. Several of them went north all the way up to the Black Sea. They traveled extensively. Paul went to Rome. Peter went to Rome. They traveled extensively. They put their life at risk and literally became supermen because they saw the value of what Jesus had started. And that's why you're here, through the love of Jesus Christ. And that's where I'm going to finish that this morning. Shelley, did you have a final thought? I thought you did.
I do whenever you're done.
I am done.
Oh, okay. This is kind of back to, I want to leave you with a charge, okay? For the women, I want you to be this kind of woman. And for the men, I want you to look for this kind of woman. And it's the Proverbs 31 woman, but that we all know. But who can find a virtuous wife? For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, so he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and a portion for her maidservants. She considers a field and buys it. From her profits she plants a vineyard. She girds herself with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good, and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hand to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid she's not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and supplies sashes for the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. She watches over the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. So I just charge you to be the women. Make that your goal. And men, look for that kind of woman. If you do, find her. You will be blessed.
Look for the characteristics. Shelley is pointing out, the scripture is pointing out, the characteristics of these people that you would like. Look for characteristics that you like in people as you interact with everybody. Shelley, close us out with prayer, please.
Father God, we love you so much. We thank you for being here with us. We feel your presence all over this place. Thank you for your words of wisdom that you give to Daryl, that he shares with us so freely. Thank you for the lives of each and every one in this room. Lord, I ask you to bless them abundantly above all they could ask or imagine. I ask you to just place a hedge of protection around each one of them, to gird them up in strength and let them honor you with their lives every day of their life. And go with us now as we leave this place and take what you've taught us to the world.